She thinks you're broken because you went silent. But silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. You want to crush her ego? Stop chasing closure and start becoming the man she never saw coming. And what if the most powerful thing you could ever say was nothing at all? What if I told you that cutting her off isn't the punishment you think it is? That going no contact won't shatter her the way you hoped? You imagine the silence echoing through her chest like thunder, shaking her to the core, making her regret every decision. But here's the hard truth. She saw it coming. She's seen it before. She's rehearsed it. No contact might quiet the noise, but it doesn't touch the ego. It doesn't flip the script. It doesn't shift the power back to your side. You're not here because you're bitter. You're here because you were all in. You showed up fully. You gave her your trust, your loyalty, your energy, your time. And when she walked away, she didn't just leave you in silence. She left you staring into a mirror, wondering if you were ever enough. But hear this, it's not just pain you're feeling, it's clarity. It's not a wound, it's a wake-up call. This isn't a video about petty revenge or desperate attempts to win her back. This is about becoming the kind of man whose silence isn't empty, it's full of presence, of weight, of power. We're not stopping at no contact, we're going beneath it. We're rewiring your thoughts, rebuilding your core, and reawakening the version of you she never truly understood, the version she can never replace. This is Stoic Room, and today we're going to show you how to crush her ego without lifting a finger, without sending a single word. If you're done living in the shadow of her memory, if you're ready to take back the energy that built her up, then hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I rise from rejection. Now let's go deeper. Number 1, burn the illusion. You're not grieving her, you're grieving the story you told yourself about her, the fantasy you clung to like a life raft in a storm, the version of her that only existed in your mind, the woman who whispered the right words, who touched your soul like she was meant to be there forever, who made you believe that maybe, just maybe, you had finally found someone who saw you, who wouldn't leave. But let's be honest, what did she actually do? Did she vanish without warning? Did she breadcrumb you while playing the helpless victim? Did she turn to someone else while you were still bleeding from wounds she left? That's not love. That's not loyalty. That's manipulation. That's ego dressed up as intimacy. And every time you scroll through old messages or replay the memories that once felt magical, you're not remembering her, you're fueling the illusion. You're keeping her on a pedestal she no longer deserves to stand on. This is the first strike if you want to crush her ego. You have to burn the pedestal. Because the more you romanticize the lie, the more power you give her. The more you treat her as irreplaceable, the more you validate her importance in your story. And let's be clear, if you still see her as rare, as special, as someone who slipped through your fingers, she wins. That's her victory. But a stoic man doesn't live in fantasy. He sees with clarity. He accepts the truth, not the dream. You've got to rip away the filter of emotion and see her for what she truly was, not your soulmate, not your forever, but your mirror, a teacher, a reflection of your own unmet needs and unchecked boundaries. She wasn't the one. She was the one that showed you what happens when you ignore the red flags, repaint chaos as passion, and love potential more than you love yourself. That fantasy you worshipped, it was your cage. And now it's time to melt it down. Because only when you stop chasing the idea of her can you finally face the truth hiding beneath the pain. She didn't break your heart, she exposed where you had no boundaries. That's the real cut. That's the truth you've been avoiding. And when you embrace it, when you burn the illusion to the ground, all that remains is raw, undeniable clarity. Not sorrow, not loss. Just truth, and from that truth, you rise. Number 2, become unreachable. No contact is only the beginning. It's the surface move, the easy escape, the physical exit. Any man can disappear from her phone, block her on socials, walk away, and call it healing. But that's not power. That's not transformation. That's just silence. If you want to truly crush her ego, you have to disappear on a level she never saw coming. Not just from her screen, but from her influence, from her reach, from her power over your emotions. Because if she still knows that you care even a little, she still has control. If her name showing up in your notifications makes your heart skip, she still owns a piece of you. And that's exactly what a Stoic man cannot allow. Becoming unreachable means more than being out of sight. It means being untouchable in spirit. You stop reacting. You stop posting vague quotes designed to sting. You stop checking who watched your story, wondering if she saw that new haircut, that new lifestyle, that new version of you. Because if your growth is a performance, she still owns the stage. But when it's real, when it's rooted in solitude, not strategy, that's when the shift happens. You stop making moves to get noticed. You make moves because you're done being noticed. And that's where the ego begins to fracture. Because women who are addicted to attention hate indifference. They don't fear being blocked. They fear being forgotten. And when you no longer react, when your silence isn't just empty but emotionless, that's when the what-ifs begin to haunt her. She wonders if you're hurting. She wonders if you've changed. But more than anything, she wonders why you don't care anymore. And that mystery, that's the dagger. You become the unknown, the question she can't answer, the absence that makes her doubt everything she thought she knew about her effect on you. You reclaim your mind. You reclaim your emotional real estate. You stop letting her take up space in your thoughts, your habits, your actions. You move differently. You speak less. You observe more. You no longer seek updates about her life through mutual friends or social feeds because you've transcended the need to know. You've chosen mastery over madness, power over pain. And when she can't reach you, when she realizes there's nothing left for her to tug on, no strings to pull, no buttons to press, that's when it hits. She's not just blocked, she's locked out. Not by force, but by evolution. You didn't ghost her to punish her. You became unreachable because you've outgrown the space where she used to exist. Number 3, master the void. Most men treat the silence after no contact like a waiting room, a place to sit, suffer, and hold their breath until she comes back. But that mindset, that's weakness in disguise. If you're just surviving the silence, you're still trapped in her orbit. You're still playing the game on her terms. Real strength doesn't come from waiting, it comes from transforming. And that transformation happens in the void. The void is not your punishment, it's your forge. It's where the noise ends and the truth begins. No distractions, no dopamine, no false hope. Just you, your pain, and the opportunity to rebuild. This is the place where you meet the real version of yourself, the one who doesn't need validation, who doesn't need her presence to feel complete. While she might be out there chasing attention, faking happiness, or numbing herself with temporary highs, you're diving deep into stillness. You're sharpening your mind. You're training your body. You're reclaiming your peace. Because when the world goes quiet, that's when you start to hear your own voice again. And that voice, that's where your power lives. Mastering the void means you stop obsessing over whether she's thinking about you and start obsessing over what you're becoming. You no longer check your phone, hoping for her message. You turn your phone off because you're locked into something greater. You become disciplined in your daily habits, in your focus, in your mission. And every day you spend in silence, you're stacking strength. The void becomes your gym, your sanctuary, your war room. While she's seeking comfort, you're building fire. And it shows. Not in your posts, not in your words, but in your energy. In the way you walk into a room with calm, collected confidence. In the way your presence speaks louder than your past ever could. Because when you can sit with emptiness and not flinch, when you can face loneliness and not fold, you become unstoppable. The man who doesn't need to be loved to feel worthy, the man who doesn't need applause to feel accomplished, the man who scares everyone who once underestimated him. She may never understand that kind of strength, but she'll feel it. Not because you told her, not because you proved it, but because your silence no longer begs. It speaks, it commands, and most importantly, it evolves. That's the true victory, not in her return, but in your rebirth. Number 4, the mirror effect. You don't crush her ego by explaining yourself. You do it by becoming the reflection she can't escape, the silent consequence of every decision she made. Most men in the aftermath scramble to be understood. They write long messages, pour their hearts out, hoping she'll finally get it, hoping she'll feel something. But that's not strength. That's surrender. That's handing her your dignity wrapped in emotion. And here's the truth. The more you explain, the more power you give. Because when you chase understanding from someone who already showed you they didn't care, you're not healing, you're negotiating with the very thing that broke you. Real power comes when you say nothing. When you vanish from her world, not with anger, but with unshakable calm. That's when the silence becomes deafening. Not because it's empty, but because it reflects everything she lost. When you stop giving her reactions, she's left with nothing to twist. No arguments to fuel, no drama to manipulate. Just a void, and in that void, her own reflection. This is the mirror effect. You don't retaliate. You don't try to prove your worth. You simply let your absence become the loudest truth in the room. She thrived on your attention, your confusion, your emotional unraveling. But now there's nothing. No late night texts, no emotional outbursts, no desperate "I miss you" signals. Just silence and the consequences of her choices, staring back at her like a mirror she can't turn away from. You've stopped being the story she controls. You've become the consequence she created. And that shift, that's what cracks the ego. Because she expected chaos. She expected begging. She expected the same pattern to play out again. But instead, she gets something terrifying. Peace. She sees a man who doesn't need closure, who doesn't ask why, who doesn't wait around for her to realize his value. That's when the doubt creeps in. That's when her confidence fractures. Because deep down, she expected you to fold. She expected you to need her validation to move forward. And when you don't, when you move in silence, evolve without the spotlight, and become better not for her, but because of her, that's when the mirror becomes a weapon. She starts to realize she didn't just lose a man, she lost the version of him that would have done anything for her. And now, that version is gone. Not bitter, not broken, just evolved. Untouchable. She sees it in your stillness. She feels it in your distance. And the worst part for her? She can't touch it. She can't undo it. Because you didn't become better to win her back. You became better because you finally chose yourself. Number 5, withdraw all validation. Her ego doesn't feed on love, it feeds on attention, on your reactions, on any signal that you still care. That's why even after she walks away, she might still orbit your world. A like here, a random story view, a casual just checking in message that seems innocent but is laced with calculation. It's not affection, it's a test. She's not asking, do you still love me? She's asking, do I still have power over you? And here's where most men fall back into the trap. They respond. They post thirst traps, hoping she'll see. They upload cryptic quotes designed to sting. They explain themselves to the wind, hoping it echoes back to her. But every one of those moves is a deposit into her ego account. You think you're being strong. You think you're showing her what she missed. But the moment you respond, even subtly, you validate her. And validation is fuel. You want to crush her ego? Starve it. Withdraw every ounce of validation like it's poison. Don't do it with bitterness. Don't do it with flair. Do it with stillness. A Stoic man doesn't broadcast his evolution. He embodies it. He understands that attention is currency, and she's already overdrawn. You owe her nothing. Not closure, not updates, not subtle signs that you're thriving, because the moment you act to be seen, you shrink your growth down to a performance. True power is silent. You don't need her to witness your glow up, you need to live it for yourself. You move forward so fully that her awareness becomes irrelevant. And the more she realizes you're not trying to make her jealous, the more it eats at her. Because now she sees your life isn't about her anymore. It's not a response. It's not revenge. It's rebirth. And it happened with no audience. Withdraw your validation not because you hate her, but because you finally love yourself more. Every time you withhold a response, every time you choose not to post for her to see, every time you let your silence carry your message, you grow stronger. And she feels it. Not because you're shouting, but because you're gone. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. And the scariest thing for someone who craved your attention is realizing they no longer have access to it. You didn't block her. You outgrew her. You didn't ghost her. You ascended. And now? She's just an old echo in a story you no longer reread. The less you react, the more she feels it. Because what's worse than anger? Irrelevance. And when she sees that her presence no longer sparks anything in you, not even a flicker, that's when her ego begins to starve in silence. Number 6, transmute the pain into power. This pain you're carrying, it's not a curse. It's not a burden you were meant to drag through life. It's fuel, raw and burning, waiting to be forged into something indestructible. You have two choices. Sit in the wreckage and let it define you, or gather the broken pieces and build something stronger, something untouchable. Most men stay stuck in the why. Why did she do this? Why wasn't I enough? Why did it fall apart? But a Stoic man doesn't linger in that space. He shifts from why to what now. What do I do with this? Who am I becoming because of this? If you want to crush her ego, don't try to hurt her. Rise beyond her reach. Turn the very pain she caused into the reason you become the man no one ever expected you to be. The most dangerous man is not the one who reacts with rage. It's the one who takes betrayal and turns it into obsession, not with revenge, not with her, but with his own evolution. You hit the gym not to show her your strength, but to feel it in your bones. You build your business not to make her jealous, but because you're finally focused on your legacy. You drown out the noise of heartbreak with a deeper sound, purpose. And the irony? She lit the fire, but she doesn't get the credit. She gets the silence. She gets the distance. Because your rise isn't for her, it's because of her. She pushed you off balance, but instead of falling, you learned to fly. This is what transmutation means. Every insult she threw at you becomes your grit. Every lie she fed you becomes your clarity. Every moment of abandonment becomes your independence. You stop needing closure because you gave yourself direction. You stop waiting to heal because you choose to build through the pain. And little by little, the version of you that once felt broken starts to disappear. In its place stands a man with sharper vision, calmer mind, and unshakable focus. The kind of man who doesn't need a crowd, who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. And when she sees you again, whether on a screen or in a memory, she doesn't recognize you, because the man she left behind is gone. In his place is someone forged by fire, not fragile, but firm. Calm, not cold. Powerful, not performative. And deep down, she knows she didn't destroy you. She awakened something ancient and unstoppable within you. You're no longer chasing her approval. You're chasing mastery. You've shifted from heartbreak to high ground. And the higher you rise, the smaller she seems, not because you're above her, but because you've simply outgrown the place she once occupied. That's the ultimate transformation. That's the revenge she never saw coming. And that's the power no one can take away from you. Number 7, become the man she can't replace. Here's the brutal truth when she walked away. She didn't expect to lose anything. She thought she could find someone better, someone new, someone who would give her the same energy, the same attention, the same devotion. She thought you were just another name in her contact list, just another chapter she could close without ever rereading. But this is where you make your move, not with desperation, not with proof, but with transformation. If you want to crush her ego, don't chase her with words. Become the version of you that no one else can replicate. Not a flashy imitation of success, not an exaggerated glow-up, but the man who is so locked into his purpose, so grounded in his self-worth, so unwavering in his discipline, that his energy becomes irreplaceable. You become the man who doesn't flinch under pressure, the one who speaks with clarity, who moves with conviction, who doesn't chase validation but radiates value. Think about Ithal. Many men does she really know who can stay calm when things fall apart, who can lead without needing control, who carry peace like a weapon and silence like armor. Very few. And that's your edge. While she cycles through temporary highs and recycled affection, you become something different, something rare, something untouchable. Not because you're faking it, but because you're finally embodying what was always inside you. She didn't break you, she cleared the path for your evolution. She was the storm that scattered your comfort zone and pushed you into focus. And now you move with intention. You build without needing to show it off. You thrive without needing her to see it. And the more you grow, the more the distance grows with you, until one day when she hears your name, it doesn't feel familiar anymore. It feels like a ghost of a man she once knew but never really understood. She doesn't just miss you, she regrets misunderstanding you. And that regret? It doesn't come because you chased her, it comes because you didn't, because you walked away with grace and rebuilt in silence. And while she's busy trying to fill the space you used to occupy, You're living in a space she was never meant to reach. You didn't glow up to get her back. You leveled up so far she can't follow. You're no longer in competition with her memory. You've transcended it. And what do you do with all that power? You don't flaunt it. You don't post it. You live it. Quietly. Fully. Because your life is no longer about proving anything. It's about living everything. And that's when it hits her not just that she lost you, but that she lost the version of you she'll never see again. The one who was loyal. The one who believed. The one who was willing to give her everything. And now, you've given it all to yourself. Number 8. Build a new identity in shadow. Evolution doesn't happen in the spotlight. It doesn't come with applause or validation. It happens when no one's watching, in the stillness, in the silence, in the dark corners of your life where the only witness is you. If you want to crush her ego, don't post your progress. Don't show your grind. Don't chase the satisfaction of her attention. Build quietly, rebuild relentlessly, grow so deeply that by the time anyone notices, you've already outgrown their understanding. Most men make the mistake of wanting her to see the transformation. They want her to regret in real time. So they post updates, drop hints, stage photos designed to sting. But that's not power. That's still performance. And performance is weakness in disguise. You don't become unshakable by seeking a reaction. You become unshakable when you stop needing one. A stoic man doesn't need to be seen to be real. He becomes real through repetition, through discipline, through choosing structure over chaos when no one is clapping for him. You wake up early not because someone's watching, but because you've decided you're worth that commitment. You build a system around your goals. You cut the noise. You simplify your world so that your focus sharpens like a blade. And you do all of this in the shadows. That's where true power is born. Not in the curated photos, not in the cryptic stories, but in the moments when it's just you, your thoughts, and the version of yourself you're determined to build. And here's the irony: when you stop trying to be seen, people start noticing. Not because you told them, but because your energy changes, your posture shifts, your tone becomes calmer, more certain. Your presence carries something it didn't before, and she'll feel it not from a message, not from a post, but from the silence, from the fact that you no longer orbit her world, from the way mutual friends speak about you with admiration instead of pity. She'll scroll and see someone she doesn't recognize, a man who looks like the one she left but moves like someone completely reborn. Because that's what you are: reborn. Not better because of her absence, but because you finally made space for your own presence. And she's not part of this second chapter. She doesn't get to pass it, watch it unfold. She doesn't get access to the identity you've built in her absence. You didn't do this to win her back. You did it because you were tired of being a lesser version of yourself just to be loved. This is your real identity. The one forged in shadow, strengthened in solitude, and protected by silence. And no matter what she does, whether she looks back, reaches out, or tries to return, she'll never be able to touch the man she once knew. Because that man no longer exists. You're no longer rebuilding. You've already arrived. Number 9. Let her watch from afar. You don't need to block her. You don't need to delete every trace. Let her stay where she eyes in the outside looking in. Because the real sting doesn't come from being cut off. It comes from being shut out of a world she no longer belongs to. She expected silence. She expected distance. But what she didn't expect was the quiet confidence you now carry. She didn't expect to witness your evolution from a front row seat she can't access. That's the true power. You've rebuilt, you've detached, and now she gets to watch your new life unfold without being able to participate. When you were accessible, she took your presence for granted. You were always there, always responding, always waiting. But now she sees what absence truly feels like. Not the kind she created, but the kind you chose. The kind that doesn't scream, doesn't beg, doesn't lash out, it simply moves forward. Understand this. People only crave what they no longer control. And when she realizes that your attention is no longer hers to toy with, that your peace is no longer vulnerable to her chaos, her ego starts to crumble. But you don't rub it in. You don't post to provoke her. You don't design your life to trigger regret. You simply live with purpose. You share your progress not to get her attention, but because it's part of who you are now. She'll see the project you launched, the discipline you've cultivated, the wisdom you now walk with, and it'll shake her, not because you're flaunting, but because you're free. She'll scroll and wonder how you got there, how you healed, how you moved on without needing her to see it. And that's when it hits her, not just the loss, but the irreversibility of it. You're no longer the man who needed her. You're the man who outgrew the version of himself that did. And that man, he doesn't chase, he doesn't explain, he doesn't need her to notice, but she will. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but one day she'll see you in a moment of stillness, in a post, in a conversation, and it'll hit her not because of what you said, but because of everything you no longer say. She'll realize that the door she walked out of no longer leads to you. That's when silence becomes devastating, because it's not just quiet, it's final. And you remain steady. You don't reach back. You don't react. You don't flinch. You've already moved on while her ego is still trying to figure out what happened. That's the real victory, not in her regret, but in your peace. You didn't win her back. You won yourself. Number 10. Forgive for power, not peace. Most people think forgiveness is about letting someone off the hook, pretending it didn't hurt, acting like it never happened. But real forgiveness? It's not weakness. It's not surrender. It's the final form of strength. You don't forgive her to comfort her. You forgive her because carrying that weight is no longer part of who you are. You've come too far to keep dragging the chains of resentment behind you. If you keep holding on to the anger, the betrayal, the need to make her understand, then you're still tethered to her. And that's exactly what her ego wants, to still have a space in your mind, in your emotions, in your story. But the moment you choose to forgive, not for her benefit, but for your liberation, something shifts. Forgiveness becomes your declaration of power. It says, you no longer define me. You no longer get a say in how I feel or how I move. It's not an invitation. It's a closing ceremony. Most men think holding a grudge keeps them strong, but the truth is it keeps them stuck. You're not healing when you're replaying the betrayal every night. You're reliving it. You're reinforcing the wound. And that keeps you trapped in the very loop she created. But when you forgive, not by forgetting, but by releasing, you rise above it. You stop being reactive. You stop looking for closure. You stop needing answers that were never coming. And in that silence, you reclaim your clarity. She expected backlash. She expected you to hate her forever. She expected the drama, the bitterness, the long shadow of your pain. But when you respond with indifferency, not coldness, not cruelty, just genuine detachment, that's when it hits her. That's when her ego cracks. Because nothing destroys someone who wanted to be remembered in anger more than being genuinely forgotten. You didn't forgive because it was easy. You forgave because it was necessary. Because your mind is no longer a battleground. It's your sanctuary. And her chaos, it's no longer allowed in. She doesn't deserve space in your thoughts, in your conversations, in your emotions. She doesn't get to live rent-free in your story. You evict her not with rage, but with release. That's what real healing looks like. That's what true detachment feels like. You're not here to carry pain forever. You're here to rise from it, to rebuild, to walk into the next chapter of your life without dragging the wreckage of the last one. And when she realizes that you're not bitter, not broken, but reborn, that's the final blow. Because she didn't lose you when she left. She lost you when you stopped looking back. You made it to the end not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as a man who refused to let anyone break him twice. And now you walk forward, not to prove anything, not to punish her, but because you finally remember who you are. You are your own redemption, your own peace, your own power. And nothing, not even her memory, can touch that anymore. The enemy should know by now you're not the same man she left behind. You're not haunted by the past. You've outgrown it. You've taken every wound, every betrayal, every unanswered question, and turned it into armor. You didn't just survive. You sharpened yourself in silence. You became the man who no longer needs closure to move forward, who no longer needs to be seen to feel worthy, who no longer waits to be chosen because he's already chosen himself. That's the power of becoming untouchable through anger, not through revenge, but through evolution. You didn't rise to make her jealous. You rose because you refused to stay broken. And now, as she scrolls through the life she no longer has access to, she won't see bitterness. She'll see clarity. She'll feel the distance she created but never expected to become permanent. You became unreachable, not by hiding, but by healing. You forgave, not because it didn't hurt, but because you won't let her hurt you twice. You mastered the void, burned the illusion, withdrew your energy, and walked forward with your head high and your peace intact. And now? Now you move in silence, but your presence speaks louder than ever. If this message lit a fire in you, if you're done begging for respect and ready to embody it, then make your voice heard. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Room, turn on the notification bell, and drop a comment below that says, "I rise with silence and power." And when you're ready for more growth, more discipline, more unshakable strength, explore our Stoic Wisdom playlist and keep walking this path of inner mastery. Until next time, stay grounded, stay focused, and never again confuse access with value. You are not broken. You are becoming.